Space. The final frontier. These are the voyages of the starship Enterprise. Its ongoing mission: to explore strange new worlds, to seek out new life and new civilizations, to boldly go where no one has gone before. For anybody who's been living under a rock for the past 50-odd years, Star Trek is one of the most iconic, long-running, and recognizable sci-fi franchises in history. Created by Gene Roddenberry, Star Trek is about an idealized future where humankind has found kinship with alien life and now explores the stars seeking new challenges, adventure, and living in relative peace with other species. These days, Star Trek has been split into a few different timelines, so I'll try to break down the timelines for those who are a little bit unfamiliar with the series. As of this recording, I am aware of 3 major deviations in the Star Trek media. The main Star Trek timeline, started by the original series that most of the spin-offs fit into, the J.J. Abrams Star Trek movies, which were released at the beginning of 2009, and Star Trek Discovery, which seems to be another offshoot, but I might be unaware of any recent changes have been made. Looks like I'll have to discover that on my own. I'm going to take a good minute now and break down the main timeline for a lot of new fans, as while people really do want to look into Star Trek, I find, most people are so overwhelmed with the amount that's available, they don't quite know where to look, so I'm going to try to point you in the right direction. We'll be going in order of which came first in universe, which means the original series is actually not the place we're starting. We're starting with Star Trek Enterprise, taking place in the 2150s, a good 100 years before the original series. It's super noticeable too. Starfleet isn't a thing yet, the tech is pretty basic as far as series standards go, and the titular Enterprise, captained by Jonathan Archer, is basically a very fast bucket they tossed into space. The damn thing shakes at top speed for Zordon's sake. It also helped flesh out and modernize some of the original alien races, like the Orions, the Tellarites, and the Andorians. Enterprise also holds the unfortunate honor of being the shortest-lived Star Trek spinoff to date, with only 4 seasons. Its biggest problem is it had trouble deciding what it was trying to be, and by the time it got its footing, the plug was already pulled. It was a real shame, because when it worked, it really worked. Now we get to the classic Star Trek. Now commonly referred to as the original series, the adventures of the gallant Captain James T. Kirk take place in the late 2260s, and are chock full of campy, wacky, ray gun sci-fi nonsense that you would expect. Not that that's a bad thing. What sets it apart from its contemporaries, however, is its optimistic outlook, cultural awareness, and pushing against the ideals and standards of the time, or at least as much as it could get away with. The whole show is responsible for a lot of ideas, world building, and iconic races we now know and love, like the logical Vulcans, and the brutal but honorable Klingons. I've still yet to watch it in full, but I'm excited to do so, cheesy effects and all. The next entry is a really strange one, Star Trek, the animated series, which takes place just after its live-action forebearer. It's a thing that's very selectively referred to, I've found, as some ideas like expanding Vulcan culture and the Katayan race are actually accepted in overall canon. Other things are better left forgotten. Like Mr. Arex. I mean, look at him. Look at his stupid chest arm. I mean, do we really have to... Taking place in the 2360s, we have the tales of the Enterprise D and its stalwart captain, Jean-Luc Picard. This is the next generation. To a lot of people, myself included, this is what I think of when I hear the word Star Trek, as it was the first installment of the show I ever saw or regularly watched. It was also the first step to changing the feel of the shows as a whole, for the 60s tinfoil sci-fi to something a little more grounded and believable in science and space travel, as well as introducing future movers and shakers to the races, like the mercantile Ferengi, the affable Cardassians, and the terrifying Borg. I mean, sure, the designs are a little 80s as hell, but that's like faulting the original series for using models. It takes about a season to really get its bearings, and does kind of sound like an old soap opera in space. The first officer and the counselor used to have a thing. They've got to be all professional. The single mom doctor and the captain have unresolved emotional tension. The doctor's kid is totally solving way too many problems for a 12-year-old. And the android with a Pinocchio complex has an evil twin brother. Nah, I'm kidding. Laura doesn't have a mustache. But believe me, this show is totally fantastic and holds up really, really well. And I need to move on before I gush about it anymore. So here's where things start getting a little complicated. Spin-offs started to begin overlapping and playing at around the same time frame as previous seasons. So I will keep things as straight as I can in the visuals, so please pay attention and follow along. This is going to get a little muddy. Taking place during the final 2 seasons of The Next Generation is the station-based spin-off Deep Space Nine. Starting just before the 2370s, we follow the command of Commander Benjamin Sisko, a widow and single father, who's been put in charge of an old Cardassian station on the edge of Federation space. He is regularly tasked with keeping the peace on his station and in his sector of space, as he also neighbors a recently discovered wormhole, a shortcut to a yet unexplored section of the galaxy. This shows a strange premise for this series all about exploring, as it is largely stationary. But while other shows work the brave explorer front, this one's more of a frontier town Wild West meets sci-fi spin to it. A few good men and women trying to keep the life bearable amidst strange new life and seedy businessmen hoping to turn a buck. It also deals heavily with the Bajorans, a race of previously occupied and oppressed people, with all the political and social commentary one would expect from a Star Trek series. As of this recording, I'm actually midway through Season 2 of DS9, and I'll be honest with you, I'm kinda loving it. I mean, I've always hated the Ferengi, and this show's selling me on them. How the hell is it doing that? The final installment in the Star Trek main timeline starts during the 3rd season of DS9, and runs from the mid to late 2370s. In this season, a chain of unfortunate events involving the Cardassians and a radical group of freedom fighters known as the Maquis hurl the freshly minted captain, Catherine Janeway, and her ship to the far end of the galaxy, the Delta Quadrant. Now she and what's left of her crew and the remaining Maquis must band together to find a way back home on the starship Voyager. Voyager is yet another strange series, as it is familiar and friendly to newcomers, but is a full-on fish-out-of-water scenario, and can ease new fans into the feel of Star Trek, but is, at some times, very technically dense, building on pre-existing lore and concepts while tossing in more techno-babble than any other series. Thanks Zordon, Star Trek is legendary in its consistency of sci-fi bullshit, or we would be in deep trouble. Voyager does indeed have its problems, but I've also had the most success as using it as a launchpad with new fans, as it's recent enough to cater to the recent show sensibilities, and the effects hold up. But it also explains old concepts as best it can, and the odd cameo here and there really helps. Hi Q. Just don't expect old school fans to sing its praise from the rooftops. So there we have it. Now let's have a quick look at that timeline one more time so we can really nail this down. We start with Enterprise, then move to the original series, and then the animated series. Next comes TNG, followed by Deep Space Nine, and finally Voyager. But I'm sure some of you are asking, how? How can a show with campy acting, green space babes, and rubber forehead aliens be a staple of geek, sci-fi, and pop culture? And it's very simple. Star Trek, from its very beginning, has had one thing going for it. It's honest. Maybe not with its effects, or even with its acting at times. But it truly and honestly believes in the advancement of society and benefits of the human condition, while scrutinizing and acknowledging the failings of people. At its core, Star Trek comes from a very real, very earnest place, and only then dresses itself up with flashing lights, body paint, and laser beams. After all, doesn't all the best work, any work, mean more when it comes from the heart?